Good evening, you're watching the news in English from the CYBC in Nicosia. More than 400 people were killed and thousands are missing after a typhoon hit the southern Philippines, triggering flash floods and landslides and forcing tens of thousands from their homes. Typhoon Washi, with winds gusting up to 90 kilometers per hour, hit the resource-rich island of Mindanao late yesterday, bringing heavy rain that also grounded some domestic flights and left wide areas without power. The Philippine National Red Cross said the death toll was expected to rise dramatically as soldiers and police were recovering more bodies washed ashore in nearby towns. Houses were swept into the sea by floodwaters while people were sleeping inside late yesterday. The Philippine Social Welfare Department said about 100,000 people were displaced. An average of 20 typhoons hit the Philippines every year, often causing death and destruction. Finance Minister Gigis Gazamia said that following the approval of the budget and the measures on putting public finances in order, we can all look into the future with optimism and give out positive messages at home and abroad. At a press conference in Limassol, Gazamias added that now we can hope that the financial situation on the home front can be dealt with in the easiest way possible. Asked of possible complications by cuts and blocking of certain expenses, the Finance Minister noted that practically there will be difficulties, but MPs will also find it hard to check on the release of funds every single time. The Finance Minister appealed on all political forces to cast aside partisan politics and expediencies and send even the slightest message of optimism to the people of Cyprus. Opposition VC parliamentary spokesman Dasos Mitsopoulos said that his party rejected what he said was a budget with the wrong philosophy. As he noted, it reflects the financial policy of a government that has brought Cyprus to the verge of the EU support mechanism. He stressed that the blocking of certain funds was an effort to limit expenses and not strike at vulnerable groups. Ruling Agel press spokesman Yorgos Logaidis said the blocking of funds will cause major operational problems for the government, noting that certain MPs' goal is to have everything go through Parliament. He did, however, welcome Vigo and EDEC's responsible stance. Vigo parliamentary press spokesman Philos Konstantinou pointed to certain reservations by his party on aspects by the budget, but voted in favour as an act of political responsibility. EDEC approved the budget because it was an act of national responsibility, said MP Nikos Lukoaidis, adding that its rejection would send negative messages to international markets. European Party President Dimitris Silouris said that his party rejected the budget outright because it's out of line with the changes needed to improve the economy of the country. Green Party Deputy Yorgos Perdigis stressed that he voted against the budget because it's not a growth budget and does not respond to today's needs. The budget was approved last night by a majority vote, with cuts reaching 140 million euros. 30 MPs from Agel, Vigo and EDEC voted in favour, while 20 MPs from VC, Evrago and the Green Party and independent MP Zacharias Koulias against. MPs blocked a string of funds totalling some 90 million euros and cut government proposed expenditure for the next year by 8%, in the hope of further reducing the projected deficit to 2% of GDP next year. Initial projections had it at 2.4%. The total amount of savings, including savings of 148 million euros, agreed with the Ministry of Finance from cuts on the cost of living adjustment, are estimated to reach 260 million euros. Funds for overtime were cut by half. MPs voted that employees who work overtime are compensated based on the lower scale of their salary. They also blocked 25 million euros for asylum seekers and political refugees, and 3 million for the state sector unions. MPs also blocked half the funds budgeted for renting a private jet for President Christofias. Local election campaigns were wrapped up at midnight ahead of tomorrow's municipal elections. All party campaign adverts and other ads on billboards or flyers are now prohibited. The chief returning officer said that political campaigns, adverts and statements related to local elections are now banned. Voting for mayors and town councils starts at 7 in the morning, with polls closing at 6 in the evening, with a 1-hour break between 12 noon and 1 o'clock. 546,111 people are eligible to vote, among them more than 12,000 EU member state citizens and 569 Turkish Cypriots. The majority of EU citizens are from Greece and Britain. 1,401 polling stations will be set up throughout the free areas of the Republic. 2 polling stations will also be set up for the enclaved Cypriots, 89 enclaved voters from the Kyrenia district, and 114 enclaved voters from the Famagusta district. For anyone who is unsure where they must vote, you can call 7777-2212, or visit the Election Service website at www.elections.gov.cy and enter your ID card number and date of birth. A 65-year-old man from Limassol was killed in the early hours when he was hit by a car as he was crossing the road. The man, identified as Andres Calambos, was crossing the central Magalhães Avenue. The 21-year-old driver of the car sustained light injuries. A breathalyzer test showed 10 micrograms of alcohol in his blood, with the maximum allowed being 22. It is the second fatal accident in less than 24 hours. Soldiers baton-charged demonstrators in Cairo's Tahrir Square a day after street clashes killed 8 people and wounded more than 300, marring the first free election most Egyptians can remember. The violence highlights tensions in Egypt 10 months after a popular revolt toppled President Hosni Mubarak. The army generals who replaced him have angered some Egyptians by seeming reluctant to give up power. Others back the military as a force for badly needed stability during a difficult transition to democracy. Protesters fled into side streets to escape the troops in riot gear, who grabbed people and battered them repeatedly, even after they had been beaten to the ground, a Reuters journalist said. Shots were fired in the air. The bloodshed follows unrest in which 42 people were killed in the week before November the 28th, the start of a phased parliamentary poll that is empowering Islamist parties repressed during the 30-year Mubarak era. And that's it for our news this evening. Now look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Overcast skies will bring light showers. Winds will be southeasterly to southwesterly, light to moderate force 3 to 4 over slight seas. Temperatures will reach 19 degrees Celsius inland and in coastal regions, and 9 degrees over the mountains. Just a quick reminder that following the news in Turkish at 7:10 you can catch an episode of BBC's The Great Rift, followed at 9 by an episode of Doctor Who, with the feature A Christmas Hope to close with at 9:45. Join us again tomorrow for more news in English. Until then, have a very good evening.